Good morning. How's everyone doing? Everyone looks awake and ready to go. So we'll get started, and want to start by saying appreciate your attendance and coverage of the 2023 ACC Tipoff. Before we begin today, I'm going to go through a few items that will hopefully be helpful to each of you. First, if we could take a moment to silence all your electronic devices. The forum and all of our school press conferences will be aired live on ACC Network or ACC Network Extra. And of course, we will have full transcripts available on the acc.com. Should you need anything today or beyond today, please don't hesitate to reach out. Our conference staff is here to assist you to help with anything that you need. With that, it's now my pleasure to introduce the Atlantic Coast Conference Commissioner, Jim Phillips.
Hey, good morning and welcome to day 2 of this year's ACC Tipoff. Before I get started, I wanted to say something about the passing of Tasha Butts, and some of you may know Tasha, some of you may not. Tasha Butts most recently was an assistant and an associate head coach at Georgia Tech, was a great player at Tennessee. I had a chance, my first assistant AD job, had a chance to meet Tasha. She was a student athlete there. Had a great playing career at Tennessee, played professionally, and then became an assistant coach, and her dream was to be a head coach. She got that dream last March when Georgetown hired her, and she passed away on Monday after a long battle with breast cancer. And, I had not seen Tasha in nearly 2 decades after I saw her on the campus at Tennessee, and she was just so full of life and just such a special woman and a special person, and too young. And I had a chance to talk with the women's coaches yesterday and said the same thing. And so I appreciate you letting me start today. But I think it's a reminder of the frailties of life, and but just how powerful people are. And I know Tasha leaves an unbelievable legacy, so our thoughts and prayers are with the entire Butts family. So thank you for allowing me to say those words. Listen, yesterday was a terrific first day of ACC Tipoff, showcasing our 15 amazing women's basketball teams. During the summer, I think a lot of you know, Jackie Carson joined our team as a senior associate commissioner for women's basketball, and she's done a tremendous job in her first 3 months. We also hired Barbara Davis from the Big East as our director of women's basketball, and we know their additions will be extremely beneficial to the ACC and its membership. Yesterday, we also welcomed Tori Verdi, who was named Pitt women's basketball coach last spring, and the day was a chance to celebrate what makes ACC basketball so special, our student athletes, coaches, and programs. We're extremely proud to head into the season with a nation's best 7 teams ranked in the USA Today Coaches Poll. The collective strength of ACC women's basketball has been well established. Consider our postseason success. First, we led all conferences in 2023 with 8 NCAA tournament teams. Last year marked the 5th consecutive NCAA tournament in which 8 teams were selected, also the most of any conference in that span. ACC teams have made 5 trips to the Final Four in the last 5 NCAA tournaments, and with Virginia Tech representing us last year. 9 different institutions have represented the ACC in the women's Final Four. The ACC is the only conference to have at least 3 teams in the Sweet 16 in each of the last 9 NCAA tournaments. And finally, the ACC also owns the most NCAA tournament wins, 119 of any conference in the last decade of competition. Pretty remarkable. After spending a full day with our student athletes coaches yesterday, I assure you there's incredible excitement, and it's going to be a season for all of us to remember. Today we turn our focus to ACC men's basketball, and we know there's never a shortage of anticipation for our teams and our conference. This year, we welcome 3 new coaches to the ACC sidelines. Georgia Tech's Damon Stoudemire, Notre Dame's Micah Shrewsbury, and Syracuse's Adrian Autry. Our men's basketball teams continue to excel. Consider The ACC has captured 3 of the last 8 NCAA championships, with 99 NCAA tournament wins in that span. Current ACC schools have won 8 NCAA titles in the last 22 tournaments and own 17 national championships overall. Our schools have combined for 67 men's Final Four appearances and the nation's best 664 NCAA tournament wins. And the league owns the highest all-time NCAA tournament winning percentage of any league, 618. All 15 ACC league members own a staggering 1,000 or more all-time wins, including 8 schools with 1,500 victories or more. Finally, 4 of the top 8 and 6 of the top 30 winningest programs in the NCAA Division I basketball history reside right here in our conference, the ACC. We understand the bar is always set high for the ACC, including in men's basketball, and I'm incredibly confident our teams will once again rise to that occasion. A lot has happened since we were together this summer at ACC Kickoff. It's always terrific to see so many of you during my travels to our campuses and to our other events. The ACC and its membership continue to be national leaders. Academically, the ACC once again leads all FBS conferences in this year's U.S. News and World Report rankings. Athletically, no Power 5 conference offers more than 28 sponsored sports, and our 15 women's offerings lead all. Our programs have won more NCAA national championships than any other conference in each of the last 2 years. Currently, 6 programs this fall are ranked either number 1 or number 2 in their respective sports, the most of all conferences. The ACC has won 7 national championships in football, men's basketball, women's basketball, and baseball since 2015. And is the only conference to win each of those 4 titles over that stretch. The ACC and its membership have so much to be proud of, and the last 2 months have been monumental. Our new conference office headquarters are just a few blocks away, and although we knew being a part of the Charlotte community would be incredible, it has exceeded our expectations. I invite you to come and see our operation at Bank of America Tower on the 12th floor. See our state-of-the-art facilities. As a league, we launched the ACC's new brand campaign, Accomplish Greatness. Amy Acola did an amazing job, and you're starting to see that pop up on our network, and you'll see that throughout the year. It's been embraced by our schools, and in the next week, we will roll out our television spots and initiatives surrounding ACC basketball. And as all of you know, on September 1st, we welcome 3 world-class institutions and athletic programs to the ACC family, Cal, SMU, and Stanford, joining us next summer. The decision by the ACC Board of Directors strengthens the ACC both now and in the future, and it benefits each of our current institutions. Throughout the entire process of exploring potential expansion, the priorities were to enrich and strengthen the ACC athletically, academically, and financially, while also enhancing the overall league stability. And the board's ultimate decision achieves all of those priorities. So, there's much more I could say with you this morning, but let me just tell you again, I appreciate all of you being here. I'll stop at this point and be happy to take any of your questions.
It's that time. We've got a couple mic holders. If you could really help us, let me make sure I see your hand. We'll go ahead and take as many as we can. I do want to be transparent that Commissioner is chairing a college football playoff meeting at 9 a.m., but he will be around the rest of the day. So we'll get started. Let's, where are my mic holders? Let's take our first one over here, second row on the aisle.
So what Amy's telling you is I'm not ducking anybody, okay? I'll be back.
Take our first one right here, second row.
Good morning, Jim. Dave Teal with the Richmond Times-Dispatch. You used the word monumental to describe the last few months. To say the least, it was a spirited discussion when it came to new membership during the summer. You just had your fall meetings. where would you assess the membership right now, just in terms of everyone being content and aligned?
I've never been more confident in the league than what we just went through over the last 3 or 4 months. So let me articulate it a little bit further. First, we talked about having a different distribution of revenue, success initiatives that we made a public statement about in the spring, in May, after the board meeting. We have moved quickly on that, and we'll distribute dollars differently for the first time. So we listened to the membership on that. Secondly, we have this amazing brand campaign that Amy led, Accomplished Greatness, which I think we've needed to do to modernize and forward face our ACC brand. We've had the expansion piece that you've talked about, and we moved to Charlotte. Listen, the expansion piece, as I indicated, academically, there's no one that can tell me or anyone else that those aren't 3 really good schools that fit the ACC. Athletically, 2 of them have led the Sears Director Cup. One has dominated it. The other has been certainly involved in it. Funnel more, I think, student athletes, those 2 schools, than any other 2 in the country, and also have had good history in a variety of other sports. They bring 2 new markets to us: San Francisco, the Bay Area, and Dallas-Fort Worth. We are a national conference. We've been a regional conference. 2 years ago, would we have done this? Probably not, David. But times have changed, and you either get on the offensive or you don't. And so where is the health of the league? The league is healthy. The league is healthy. At the end of the day, my job is to run the ACC and make sure it's healthy for the next 70 years. It has been the last 70 years. I cannot control individual feelings on campuses, but we have addressed head-on anything that our campuses have indicated. So I feel great. I really do. I've never been more bullish, and I can't say that I felt that way a year ago. So that's where we're at. The meetings were fantastic. We had our 3 new schools there with us, so we have had a chance to start some dialogue there. We've got a lot of work left with scheduling and some other things. But the future is really bright of this conference. This conference has been undervalued, and I'm gonna continue on that. When you talk about CFP appearances, you talk about national championships in college football, you talk about the basketball success I just mentioned, you talk about a conference that's won more national championships than any other conference, you talk about a conference that has a network. There's only 3, and there'll always only be 3. There'll never be any more collegiate networks. You talk about the success we're having in the classroom. I could go on and on. We distribute money, a third that continues to grow. So the narrative has run away about you have to make a certain amount of money to have success. You have to go chase a dollar. I think it's about, are we chasing, again, dollars, or are we chasing success? And that's what we're doing. We're chasing success with real student athletes that are graduating at the highest level from enormously difficult institutions. When this is all said and done, we'll have 8 of the very best private institutions, 10 of the very best public institutions. We'll be in great markets. So that's where I think the league is, and that's kind of what we talked about during the meetings. And it's not Pollyannish. It just isn't.
Go down here, front row.
Hey, Jim, Luke DeCock, Raleigh News and Observer. I kind of want to follow up on David's question. You had 3 schools very vocally voted against expansion. There are rumors and texts sent to your ADs talking about potentially one school using private equity to go independent. You've had schools that this was not a unanimous vote. What can you do now to keep any schools that were against expansion in the fold? Or one of the stated things that your ADs and presidents said after expansion was, we have to get to 18 because if we lose schools, we need to stay above 15. That was a logic that was given to us. To what degree are you guys preparing for a future without some of your current members?
Good morning, by the way, Luke. It's good to see you. I cannot control individual decisions on campus, and we can't. And so we have absolutely listened. I've tried to be a really good listener. And so it hasn't fallen on deaf ears. We've been proactive. The distribution of dollars with Success Initiative is part of what I'm hearing and maybe a majority of what I'm hearing from some of the schools that have been vocal about it. Getting to 18 protects the ACC now and into the future. Schools will ultimately make the decisions that they want. But what I keep hearing from them is they like being in the ACC, and we are making progress, and we have addressed some of the things that they've talked about. So I would really encourage all of you to go back to whatever schools that you want to discuss that. As far as not a unanimous vote, in 2004 and 2005, the ACC made offers to Virginia Tech, Miami, and Boston College. That was not unanimous. Carolina and Duke, from what I remember, voted against it. So people made a big deal, I know, about NC State and North Carolina separating in their vote. There's history there. And at the end of the day, we had a high threshold. You're talking about 80% of the league voted in favor of that. I'm not sure in this world you can get 80% of vote on anything, on any issue. And so we move forward together. I don't feel any hangover by any of the schools that may not have been in favor of the expansion piece of it. Zero.
All right, we're going to go right over here to the very front. Give us a second. Looks like we're down a mic.
Hey, Commissioner Phillips, Royal Howell, Carolina Blitz. Commissioner, you mentioned the conference being undervalued, and last year I know a lot during conference calls, coaches felt like there wasn't enough exposure for ACC basketball. Since 1997, out of 27 NCAA tournaments, the ACC has had 20 teams at least make the Final Four. What can the coaches do to bring more exposure to the ACC? Is it more just coaches talking about the conference as a whole? What can you see from coaches to bring more exposure to the ACC?
It's good to see you this morning. We spent a lot of time in the off season talking about men's basketball and women's basketball, how we were scheduling. We brought Kevin Pogba in, who's really good, works at Michigan State, but he's kind of the guru of scheduling and the net and the metrics involved in selection, etc. We've had to schedule better in the non-conference. Not dissimilar to football, we have to perform better in the non-conference. From a conference standpoint, we've really pushed hard with this branding campaign, with the network, additional shows, additional features, trying to promote the game and the ACC at a higher level. So that was all through the off season. So I feel like we've got a lot of momentum behind men's and women's basketball. There's been serious investment at the conference level, but also at the institutional level. We want to keep those statistics, as you mentioned, going. The history of the ACC, some could argue, I think it's the best basketball conference in the country. Maybe the last few years we haven't performed or won a national championship like we always go into the season hoping for. But when you look at the whole body of work, this is a phenomenal basketball conference, and we're trying to double down on some of our past success.
Go back over here. We're going to stay on this side on the right one row in front. Yeah, right.
You'll get there.
It's fine.
Thank you. Morning, Jim. Mike Barber, Richmond
Hi,
Times
Mike.
Dispatch. Kind of what David was asking in terms of the reaction of the league. I'm curious, this is such a proud basketball league, and obviously the expansion decisions are largely driven by football economics. What has been the reaction and the feedback from the basketball coaches, and what has been your message to them on that front?
It's been really good. I've heard from a majority of the coaches on the men's side. I've heard from basically all the women's coaches who I was with yesterday. They understand it, and they get it, and they're excited about it because where we are today in the world of college sports, a move like that, you can't pass up with the environment. A chance for our schools to get into the Bay Area, our current 15, and then get into the Dallas-Fort Worth, they recruit nationally, and now we have a chance to go out there. The travel is something we spent time on, and I think that's the biggest question the coaches have. I've not heard one coach at least tell me that they were against it or don't like it, et cetera. Maybe they don't want to tell me that, but the travel is the piece that we've spent an inordinate amount of time on with some working groups. For the current ACC schools, it'll be one trip basically every 2 years, every other year. And when you go out to the West Coast, you'll play Cal maybe on a Thursday and Stanford on a Sunday or whatever days, right? So there'll be a for the first time kind of travel partner. So Florida State and Miami will go out to the Bay Area, and one will play Cal, one will play Stanford, and they'll switch. Duke and Carolina, right? Virginia Tech. And then coming back the other way, it'll be between 4 and 5 trips. So we've thought about with Paul Barrazzo and Jackie Carson, do we have to play some conference games a little bit earlier in the year? Should we play some, before the holidays, et cetera, and try to limit some of that travel? So they're excited about it. They feel, as I just described, this is a chance for them to bring their programs and their brands out to different markets that are, national cities, and have a media presence. Again, top 10 market. The follow-up to that would be we're working hard on distribution out there of the network, which is going to be a really key piece of this thing as well. So I've gotten positive reactions from our coaches.
Second row, Joe.
Good morning, Jim.
Hi, Joe.
Bobias from Raleigh. You used proactive, getting on the offensive, but the expansion moves have largely been viewed as reactive. Why not truly go the national conference, as you mentioned, when the signs were there last summer or even the summer before that? ACC history was being proactive with expansion. So what prevented you and the presidents from truly being on the offensive last summer or before?
Yeah. I think, Joe, when we looked at it 2 summers ago, when the first move with Texas and Oklahoma, you kind of study it, et cetera, we felt really good. I think some of the vibes and some of the conversations we had with individual institutions, Joe, that became apparent that we needed to try to do something financially as well as protect the fortress. So we felt we were very proactive. We had many calls, hundreds of hours of time with the board as it relates to taking a look at, would this make sense? Would this group of schools make sense? Would this particular school make sense? And when we got into the spring and into the summer, I think it kind of all came together.
Stay on this side on the aisle.
Yeah, good morning, Jim. Mitch Northam, North Carolina Public Radio.
Hi, Mitch.
The ACC women's basketball tournament's going back to Greensboro for, I think, the 23rd time in 24 years. Is this the long-term home for the tournament, or is the conference interested in exploring other venues, maybe a rotating model like the men's?
Mitch, really good question. We are talking with our coaches and looking at scheduling in totality. Greensboro has been a wonderful home for the women's tournament and for the men's tournament. We will certainly continue to populate Greensboro with our championship. But we're in a new home as well in Charlotte, and we want to take advantage of this world-class city. So I think what you're going to see this fall is you'll see an announcement that will take us maybe over the next 3 or 4 years with our basketball tournaments as well as our Olympic sports. Here in the state of North Carolina, there were some commitments that we made to the state in order to stay here and receive some funding. So we'll honor those commitments contractually, et cetera. But this is a really nice place for us, Charlotte, with some games in Greensboro. But then we've also been up the coast some, and we look forward to being in Washington, D.C. on the men's side come March, and on the women's side back to Greensboro. So again, I love the choices we have as we look at future championships, not only in the basketballs, but also in our Olympic sports.
Far left side on the aisle.
Commissioner Brian Murphy, good morning. I wonder how much the league had contact with ESPN, given what they're going through before the decision to expand, and if you could shed some light on the pro rata agreement and how the financials are going to work with the 3 new members.
Yeah, thanks, Brad. We had constant conversations, through the membership. I had a chance to talk to ESPN. They were completely listeners in it, and but they're our partner, they're our network partner, and our very important partner, I would underscore. As it relates to the financial piece of it, we're still working on some of that, but as been stated, we're going to use some dollars for the Success Initiative pool. We're going to use some of the new CFP dollars for the Success Initiative pool. So we're still working through a few of those things, but it has benefit for our entire membership for certain.
Down here in the front.
Dan Tortora, Wake Up Call, DT.com. When you look at this realignment and everything that's gone on over these last few years, we had the balloon conferences in the past, and they got too big and they broke away. Did you see that this was going to happen again, the mega conference getting to 18, some maybe looking at 20? Did you kind of envision that it was going to go this way? And how do we make sure it's successful this time as opposed to what happened before?
Dan, I would say, I think all the signs pointed to that when when Texas and Oklahoma left to go to the SEC, and you had multiple conferences, grant of rights, and media contracts come open. That historically has been the time where schools have moved. And even though Texas and Oklahoma made that announcement 2 summers ago, they've stayed in the Big 12 until their grant of rights has come to a conclusion, which will be this summer. We feel good about the 18. We'll be at 18. The Big 10 will be at 18. The SEC and the Big 12 will be at 16. And so that's where super conferences are right now, or mega conferences, or Power 5, Power 4, whatever you want to describe. So we are right where we should be, and I think we'll learn some things from history, and it won't be perfect. Travel won't be perfect. Scheduling won't be perfect. But being proactive and making sure that we have set this ACC up for now and into the future, the ability to have success, I don't think there's any question about that.
Got 2 left. We're going to take our first one over here on the left.
Hey, Jim. Josh Graham, WSJS. Kind of on the note of the conference tournament, how many models are being considered for the format of that tournament once the 3 schools join? And related to scheduling with football, how would you characterize the challenges presented with adding the 3 schools for the timeliness of the football schedule having to be released for next year?
Josh, we'll unveil the football schedule first because that's most pressing. Fall sports, not only football, but our soccers and field hockey, et cetera. So we want to get those across the finish line. We're nearing that. We've worked closely with ESPN, our partner, and closely with our 3 new schools and our campuses. We've had too many iterations to name the number of, but I feel really good about that, while also protecting some very important rivalry games and some rivalry games that we have with other conferences. So it's been the ultimate jigsaw puzzle, but feel very, very good about that. As it relates to our other championships and where will they be in the future, I think that remains to be determined. And as it relates to the scheduling part, like for basketball, it varies a little bit, Josh, because we're playing 18 games on the women's side, 20 games on the men's side. So that all kind of factors into ultimately. I don't know that we would invite 18 teams to an ACC men's or women's basketball championship. I'm not sure. We're going to do the conference office. We'll do what the membership wants. I don't feel like that's something that we should do. I've told them that, so I'm not speaking out of turn. I think you got to earn your way to play in, I think, the most prestigious postseason basketball tournaments in the country. And if you don't get to a certain threshold, certain threshold, then you just don't make it that year. So we'll see. It's also, Tuesday through Saturday or Wednesday through Sunday. That's been a nice flow. It's been a nice flow, I think, for the media. It's been a nice flow for our teams, for fans, for our staff. I'm not overly interested in adding one additional day, but we'll listen to the membership and see what they have to say.
Last question.
Joe Giglio, Ovius and Giglio. Hey, Jim.
Hey, Joe.
At the risk of being crazy blunt, is it a bug or a feature that the 3 schools you're adding are not very good at football, and 2 of them in California aren't very interested in supporting football?
So what is the first part of that? Is it a
bug or a feature?
Yeah. I would just say this. Those 2 schools have had success in football in the past. David Shaw did an amazing job. So they're going through a transition there. Cal has had good football as well, and SMU's really good. They may be at the G5 level, but you'll see them, I think, immediately perform well in our league. So, again, you can look at a moment in time. Joe, I appreciate it very much, and I understand that. But in totality, I feel really good about what they can do in the ACC, and so does the membership.
Commissioner, thank you. Thanks to each of you. We're going to flip this room, get ready for our coaches and student athletes. And again, we're around the rest of the day. Let us know how we can help.
Thank you.